Ever wondered what would happen if you swapped out the magnet inside your favorite humbucker? In this case, this is a DiMarzio Super Distortion. What happens if you put in something like Alnico 2, Alnico 5, or Neodymium? That's what we're going to get to find out in today's video. A few months back, I was scrolling on Instagram and I saw a post from JPTR FX. Typically, they are known for the Titan 250 amplifier and a bunch of really cool and wacky guitar pedals. But this time, they were doing something different. They had a guitar pickup. So I was really curious about it, and I contacted Chris over at JPTR FX, and I said, what is this new thing that you created? And if you didn't know, Chris is a massive fan of the DiMarzio Super Distortion and pretty much has them in all his guitars. And he wanted to take that awesome classic humbucker and do the same thing people were doing back in the 1970s and 80s, which is to swap out the magnets and see what happens. Now, his love and appreciation for this pickup has led him to design his own version of it, which is the SuperNova. But the question is it really different? Is it bringing something new to the table, or is it more of the same old thing? And that's what I intend to find out in this video. I'm certain that most guitarists know this information, but the Super Distortion was the first aftermarket guitar pickup that you could buy back in the 1970s and remained so for quite a while. So if you had a guitar and you felt like it needed a bit more of a push and you wanted to upgrade, the DiMarzio Super Distortion was surely the pickup you would put in your guitar. And this one upgrade single-handedly changed the sound of rock and metal back in the 1970s. Now, you have to keep in mind that pedals were still kind of a niche thing back in those days. So if you wanted to get more juice, more punch out of a guitar, you had to upgrade the pickup. And since the DiMarzio Super Distortion was the only one available, this led guitar players to swap out the magnets inside their pickup to see if they could get different feel, different response, and different output from their upgrade. Now, much like those players from the 1970s, Chris was wondering, what if I swap out the magnet in the DiMarzio Super Distortion? Now, the folks at JPTR FX went all out with this one, and they went with the Neodymium magnet, which is basically strong enough to lift a small car. And that is essentially how the SuperNova was born. I'm going to be using the SuperNova with different rigs so you can get a sense of the range of this pickup. So there's going to be clean tone, overdriven, distortion, and fuzz. And for fun, we're going to do an A-B comparison between the SuperNova and the Super Distortion. So again, clean tone, overdriven, distortion, and fuzz. And there's also going to be a segment where I'm going to show you how the volume pot reacts with the pickup. So you get the pickup and a treble bleed cap that comes with it. It's installed in the guitar, and we're going to see how it cleans up with a typical overdriven tone. So without further ado, let's get to the demo. To see how the SuperNova fits inside of different genres, I created 5 clips across 5 different genres. We're going to have 70s music, 80s rock, punk, grunge, and metal. is what makes the SuperNova stand out. It has neodymium magnet, ultra powerful and efficient, an old school sound, but with modern output, so think vintage tone on steroids. The dynamic range is highly responsive to your playing. It has 12.4 k-ohm output, so plenty of punch. It is wax potted, so no unwanted squealing, and it comes with a treble bleed capacitor, which is going to keep the top end sparkle as you decrease the volume. Now, for my personal taste, I've always been a massive fan of single coil pickups. I have Tellys, Strats, a Dan Electro with lipstick pickups. I just really enjoy single coils, but the moment you start to go into more like heavy territory or fuzz, sometimes that 60 cycle hum is really a bother. So there's quite nothing like a humbucker for that purpose. And the closest I came to finding a great humbucker I could use was the Seymour Duncan Pearly Gates. The thing is that it sounds great with clean. It sounds great when you do the whole like coil tap thing. And the moment you want to go with heavier tones, that's where it becomes a little more lackluster. So I kept searching for the perfect humbucker, and the closest I came was the DiMarzio Super Distortion. It sounds great on clean tones. It sounds great in pretty much any setting, and it's almost the perfect humbucker for me. Almost. Now, when Chris reached out to me and asked if I wanted to do a demo of the SuperNova, of course I was curious. Now, I'm not getting paid any money to make this demo. They're not holding my favorite guitar pedals hostage. I actually like the SuperNova. It is a great humbucker. It has the clarity. It has the articulation. So no matter if I throw in like something like a big muff, or if I have loads of distortion, it remains articulate and I can still hear all the notes super clearly, which is really hard to do sometimes with high output pickups. So it delivers, it sounds great with overdrive, and it sounds great clean. So all in all, that's what I was looking for. I wanted the qualities of the single coil, so the beautiful clean tones that remain articulate, they don't sound too dark, they don't sound too mid-heavy, and they remain pleasant to the ear. But when you throw in some really heavy distortion or fuzz, it can play nice, it doesn't have all the hum, and it remains articulate, which is super important. Now, if you've come across my videos before, or maybe you're a subscriber, you may not know that I am actually a metalhead that is now doing more like dad rock stuff. So back in the early 2000s to about 2009, 2010, I was in a metal band. We were trying to get signed to a label. We were putting out albums, playing shows. So I'm quite well versed with high output humbuckers. And if it wasn't for the context of those bands, I would have never owned a guitar that had high output humbuckers. I just didn't like it for my own stuff. But for those bands, it was what I needed. And ever since then, I've been playing pretty much PAF style pickups or really low output humbuckers. And this is the first time I give high output humbuckers a chance again, and it hasn't disappointed. Now, to reiterate, you're free to make up your mind on whether you want to trust what I'm saying here or if I'm just another paid shill, but this is my opinion. I wasn't paid to say nice things. I've said that before, and I don't see why I would lie about a pickup when I'm putting the demo out, and you can be the judge whether you think this pickup is as awesome as I'm saying it is. I hope that Chris is going to send more SuperNovas to other YouTubers, so that way you have more data points, you have more videos to judge, more people with different styles of music, probably better players than me too. That way you can make up your mind on whether that is something that you're looking for. But if you're a fan of the Super Distortion to begin with, this is definitely a contender for your next upgrade on your guitar. So definitely go check it out. I have a link in the video description. Go check out the SuperNova over at JPTR FX. In the meantime, if you enjoy this video, I have more just like it appearing on screen right now. Click on one of those, and I'm going to see you in the next one. Cheers.